Hey all, welcome to Parker's Reefs. In today's episode we're going to test out this Aqua dual inline TDS. Alright, so here we are. Welcome to my marquee, which is what I often refer to as my back shed. It's where all my water storage and processing and filtration and things take place. This is my RO storage here, and here is my RO unit. This produces the RO for all my tanks, and it all gets taken from this barrel here off to the rest of my tanks. Now, I've got a TDS pen, which I use to check the water of this quite often. What can be a little bit fiddly with it is that if you're collecting the water to measure the TDS of, you get the water from your RO unit, you put it in that cup or whatever it may be, whatever container, you put your pen in there, you get a little bit of a reading and you're like, oh, that's weird. You give it a swish and you tip it out, you put some new water in there again, the reading goes down. You give it a swish, tip it out, more water in, the reading goes down again. Basically, any little contamination in that container is going to show up as TDS in the water, particularly if like a drum like this might get a little bit of dust, might get a little bit of salt, could get a bit of anything in there really, which whilst isn't great, you don't want to see contamination in here, and I do want to test the water in here in case, you know, an animal gets in, even though I've got it all sealed up here. If an animal got in there and died, I want to be able to see that. But realistically, a little bit of salt or something like that, I'm not overly fussed by. I'm looking for the quality of the water coming out of the TDS unit. So I was at my local fish shop the other day and I saw this Aqua unit from, this unit from Aqua, which is their dual inline TDS. Now, this is a clever little device that has two probes that they've designed to put pre-RO unit and post-RO unit, so you can see the quality of the water going into your RO and the quality of the water coming out of your RO. Chatting to the owner of my local fish store, he had a pretty nifty idea. He said you can, you basically need to do a check of your pre-RO unit TDS once in a blue moon. Once you know what your town water's like, you don't really need to keep checking it. Sure, you always want to check the output of your RO unit, but what he recommended, and it made such good sense to me, was to put the pre-unit, pre-DI resin, this one here, and then the second probe after the DI resin. So basically you can see the quality of the water that's gone through your pre-filter, your carbon block, your RO unit, and then before it gets to your DI resin, you can see what quality the water's like, and then you can see the quality of your water after DI resin. In short, it tells you when you need to change your DI resin. It'll also tell you how your three pre-filters are going, in that your pre-filter, your carbon, and your RO membrane. That makes a lot of sense to me. That being said, this unit's quite easy. It comes with some inline T's, and the probes actually plug into John Guest fittings. So I've also got a T here which measures the water going into my unit as well. So I can easily switch a probe over, take the little bung out here, measure the water going in. So I'll be able to measure water going into the unit, water coming out of pre-filter, carbon and RO before DI, and then after DI. So for 55 Australian dollars, it's going to give me a fair bit of information. The unit itself's battery powered, so it doesn't require any cables or anything like that. It's got a nice little display there, and it's magnetic, so I'm hoping I'll be able to just sit it up against there and keep an eye on my TDS whenever I need to. So I figured we'd open it up. Hopefully the noise isn't too bad back here because it's windy as hell. It's pretty nasty weather to be in a marquee in your backyard, but we'll give it a shot. And I'll set this unit up and yeah, we'll go from there. But first things first, we better unbox it because I haven't actually done that yet. All right, straight to the point. We got the unit here. In fact, I'll take it out of this bag. We got the unit with the display. We got the two probes, and we got some T's that you can use to intersect your DI lines. And I believe I've been told this is magnetic. Oh, it is too. That's pretty cool. Look at that. Sweet. All right, so I guess there's nothing much else really to do other than to get my 1/4-inch cutter, install these T's, and put these probes in there. Now, it does actually show you the direction that the probes, these little TDS probes, I'll just gently take the cover off. I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see that on the screen, but it's got two little prongs. Now, those two little prongs, according to the instructions, need to go. The water needs to pass the two prongs, basically in between the two prongs. You don't want the water going in line with the prongs. It's got to go between the two prongs. So as long as you get the orientation of your probe right, and they've got little markers on the side of the probe so you can see where the prongs are, you should be pretty good. So I'm going to stop talking for a second. I'll play some music while I install this, and then we'll test the unit out. All right, so now we've got the unit installed and some RO water flowing through. What I've probably done is I'd probably switch the probes around, because at the moment TDS 1 is actually measuring my output and TDS 2 is measuring my input, but that's okay. I mean, we can easily cycle through them. So at the moment you can see TDS 1, which is my output, is measuring 00 ppm, which is awesome. When I switch to the incoming water, you see we're getting 99, 98, and you can see it just trickles between the two. So that's the TDS of my town water. So that's really cool to know. I can see if, you know, if they're doing pipe works or something, or whatever happens upstream, I'll be able to measure and see whether the town water changes. But more importantly, I can see what the output is. And at the moment, our output is 000, which is awesome. You can see the unit is magnetic, and it's just sitting onto the body of the RO unit, which is really handy. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to switch the water off. I'm going to change the incoming probe to pre-DI resin, just so I can see. At the moment, I know the DI resin is taking whatever's left of the TDS out, but I'd be curious to see what the TDS is like before the DI resin. So I'll just pop the camera back up on the stand and we'll come back live once I've got that happening. All right, it was as simple as that. I just switched off the power to my RO for a second to make sure that water was not going to come through when I took the probe out. This is my water inline, so I just put a little bung in that T-piece there, so I can easily access that if I ever need to. And I moved the probe over here, which is kind of hard to see. I'll get the camera up so you can see it there. That's the line that comes out of the reverse osmosis membrane and goes into the DI resin there. So now I've got a probe pre-DI resin, post-DI resin. And I'm super happy to say that this probably explains why my DI resin lasts so long, is that I've got 0 ppm on both pre-DI resin and post-DI resin, which is awesome. You might have noticed that, yeah, with our town water running at around about 90 to 95 TDS, the good size reverse osmosis and water filter unit here lasts a long time. In fact, I got these clear housings on this unit. I've had a couple of units in past, and I had white housings before, and I got these clear housings just so I can keep a bit of an idea of how dirty the pre-filters and things are. And you can see these look pretty new. That one's got a slight bit of coloration to it, the first filter, but in fairness, that one's been in for 12 months now and it's still going fine. The carbon filter looks brand new. The resin I have changed a couple times. As soon as I see any sort of TDS, I change the resin, but that resin would be probably 3 months old now. And it's probably going to last a lot longer, because obviously we're getting 0 TDS in and 0 TDS into the resin, which means the resin's not having to work too hard. Realistically, you don't want your resin having to take too much out, otherwise you're going to burn through resin. These pre-filters are very cheap. If you replace them often, it's going to make your RO membrane last a long time, and then you won't have to replace DI resin as often. So this will give me a little heads up. As soon as my resin's working hard, I can either change the resin or I can change these pre-filters. All right, guys, there you have it. That's my super short, sharp, simple review on the Auto Aqua Digital Inline TDS. This is the Titanium S2. I don't know if that means they've got a non-titanium or a Series 1, but for about 50 to 55 Australian dollars, pretty nifty little device to check onto your RO unit there and just see how things are operating. I'm impressed with how quick it was to install. I guess the only trick is to make sure you get those two prongs on the probe around the right way, so you got the water passing through them, not going in line with them. I assume it measures something between those two probes, and if you have them in line, you might get some sort of like wind resistance, water resistance from the second probe to the first probe. I don't know. I'm not that scientific. All I know is the instructions say to put the probe with the two probes across from each other rather than in line with each other. So that's what I did. The fact that it's battery powered is kind of handy, and the magnetic base is really cool. I noticed before when I turned the power off and the water stopped flowing through, it turned off. I don't know whether it's got some smarts in there when it doesn't see water that it turns off, or it just timed out. I'm not sure, but as soon as I turned the water back on, I pressed a button and the display lit up showing me the TDS. Pretty cool. So I don't know. I paid retail for this thing. It's not given to me. This is not a paid review whatsoever. It was just a little device I picked up that I saw a couple of people looking at local fish shop and asking questions. I had some questions myself, so I figured I've got a use case for this. I'll buy it, do a quick review on it, let you guys know what I think about it. Till next time, guys, if you have any questions, pop it in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And as always, if you're yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. It's totally free, and it'll just make sure you won't miss any future videos. It'll also help me with this YouTube ranking game. Till next time, guys, stay safe and keep reefing. Cheers. Bye.